talk about the District Assessment Dashboard. Once you have logged on, go to the left-hand menu and choose District Assessment. The landing page is an overview of all grades. For instance, on this one, you can see grades 2, 3, 4, and 7. The top of the page, you can change the different years. I'm on 2020. You can also see the different grades. We're going to discuss those in a minute. You can also see the legend, what the shaded colors represent. Students' approaches and higher, red is less than 65%, yellow 65 to 74%. You can scroll across. You can change the subject area. The landing areas for English language arts. You can change subjects to math, science, social studies, and so forth. You can see the different grades and performance. As you hover over the test ID, you can see the name of the assessment. In this instance, 92% of the students scored at approaches and higher. There were 117 students tested. This gives you trend data of all of the assessments that have been given and gives you some information graphically by looking across to see if student performance is increasing or decreasing over your assessments. You may also view performance by clicking on a grade. In this instance, I've clicked on grade 4. I'm still in English language arts, and you can see all of the assessments that have been given for that particular grade and subject. You can see the number of students that passed and the number of students that were tested. The stacked bars are center aligned on the break between approaches and meets. The shaded areas show the percent of students in each performance group not met, approaches, meets, and mastered. As you hover over each colored part, it shows you the number of students falling within that performance standard. This method demonstrates which side of the performance area students fall for easier comparison between all of the different assessments. More students on the right side of the divide, the better the overall performance. You can see additional menus by looking across the top bar, including details, teacher, progress monitoring, and item SE analysis. These menus are about an individual assessment. The overview shows you a demonstration of all assessments. So we're going to go to details. From details, you can select any one of the subject areas, select a grade, and then from the drop-down menu, select an assessment. This will result in students being divided in the different performance groups, not met, approaches, meets, and masters. Within each one of those areas, you can see the students that fell within that standard. In the top, you will see a number which represents the overall average percent correct for that particular group. So in this instance, it's a 30% correct for that group. As you look down, you will see the bars that represent the number of students that fall into the average percent. So for instance, in this case, there were 13 students that fell in the 30 to 46% range. Also, the number here in gray represents the number of students within this particular group. So there are 19 students that fell in the not met group. As you look down within this list, you can see the names of the students. The 3 bars, that if you click on the 3 bars, will take you to the student assessment detail. You can also see the average percent correct and the raw score for those students. If the user would like to get further SE information, you may click on the 3 bars within any of the colored areas and get SE performance for that particular group. So you can scroll down, you can see a description of the SE, you can see the RC, the reporting category, as well as the SE, the number of items that were tested on that particular SE, and the average score for those SEs. You can change your groups here to approaches, meets, and masters, and get the same information for those students. You can see how the color coding changes as well, depending on which group you select. The same type of information is available as you scroll across. Quintiles will give you information about students divided into 5 different groups based on their scores. I can get information about ethnicity. I can see the different demographics and performance of groups. I can look at groups and get different program information. I can go to clusters and get some very important information. In clusters, this report divides the students into 5 groups based on SE performance as opposed to performance standards. So in other words, I might have a student who made a 90, but he missed the same SEs as students who made a 70. So this will group students within those different clusters. Now I have information on where students' weaknesses may be occurring, and I can look at those and help moderate those. I also have an overall grid at the top that shows my 5 groups and their performance. Next, I can go to the summary page. This provides information on the performance of students across all the campuses and district. The number of students falling in each band will be demonstrated as the user hovers over the band. And just like on the landing page, the stacked bars are center aligned on the break between approaches and meets. You see the number of students who passed the assessment and the number of students who were assessed. If I choose teacher from this menu, I can look at all teachers in the district as well as at my campus. Each individual teacher will also be listed within my campus. I can see how many students were tested. I can see the average percent correct as well as the average raw score. I also have information on my RCs as well as my SEs. I can see my percentage approach, a percentage met, and a percentage mastered. This gives me a visual comparison with my teachers, the district, and each individual teacher. I can scroll up to the menu and check on roster and look at my individual students. I can see how each student did on RCs, SEs, get program information about them, as well as overall performance. I can now go to error analysis, and this gives me information about my students and about my assessment. You see at the top, there are process, conceptual, guess, no answer, and error codes, denoted by different shadings and colors. Process, conceptual, and guess may be used on math assessments. They are not typically used on other assessments. The teal color shows you if a student has skipped answering questions. The top row gives you information about the content SE. This is entered on the answer key from the very beginning. If there are process SEs, those will also be reflected in this row of information. Each question will have a reporting category, which will be shown in the 3rd row. The correct answer will be reflected in this row, and then the question number. The average percent for each question will be in this row, and you can see if it falls below 70, it will be shaded in pink. Now as you scroll down, you can see your students and see the raw score, the average percent correct, and how they answered. If they answered incorrectly, it will be shaded in pink. You see the 3 bars by the student's name, and again, you can drill down to the student assessment detail. You may choose to do an ad hoc group analysis. In order to do that, click on students that you are particularly interested in grouping. Go to the eye icon, which is the group analysis, and click on that. This forms a quick ad hoc group that the teacher can get some information about. You can scroll across the top and see how these students performed on STAR, TELPAS, or any other setting that you would like to see about that particular group of students. I'm going to scroll across to Objective Mastery, and you can see once again the different SEs, how many items were tested, the average percent. You can also see this information broken down by different ethnic groups and have a comparison between the campus and the district. Now, we can scroll across the top bar again and go to Teacher, Progress Monitoring, Item and SE Analysis. We're going to look at Teacher next. When I go to the Teacher tab, I can see all of the assessments that have been given for this period of time. The teachers are listed at the bottom. I can see performance of the students within each teacher's class. I can scroll down and see all of the assessments. I can see the number of students who have passed, the number of students who tested, and their performance. Again, stacked bars are being used as a comparison so you can see how students do over time. You can scroll down and see all of the teachers within that particular campus. Within the teacher view, you can change from overview, SE performance. You can select a course and a specific teacher, or select all teachers, click on the green arrow, and you will get information on each SE by all the teachers or the specific teacher you chose. For instance, SE 4.10a, which is explain the author's purpose and message. Then you have the teacher, you have the assessments on which that specific SE was tested, and the overall percentage of how students did. So for 4.10a in Mrs. Bennett's class, on this specific assessment, on question 3, students had an average score of 74%. Continuing across the top bar, I'm going to go to progress monitoring. Once there, I can choose the enrolled grade, tested grade, and choose a course. Once you have clicked on the green arrow, this will generate a report of all of the students in the selected grade, tested grade, and course. The test names appear on the right-hand side along with the test codes. The number of students in this group will appear on the right-hand side. So in this instance, there are 126 students. As you hover across each little rectangular area, you can see the name of the test that it corresponds to. Each area is color-coded depending on the performance of the test. For instance, on this first test, the student scored a 40%. On the next one, he had a 28%. This gives you trending data across the assessments that have been given in the district. You can see the different color codes for each assessment. You can also see some blank areas that would indicate the student did not take that particular assessment. You can click on the student's name and go to the student profile that has been discussed in another video. You can always click on the 3 bars to drill down to the student assessment history. The final tab, Item SE Analysis, provides comprehensive information regarding each item in SE. There are 3 sections within this tab: Item Analysis, SE Analysis, and Process Analysis. The landing page, Item Analysis, provides the user information regarding each item, reporting category, SE, the correct answer, the percentage correct, and the percentage for each answer. Additionally, the difference between the overall performance between district and campus is demonstrated. You can always export this information to Excel. You can also change your groups. The landing page goes to all students. You can also go to the information for students who did not meet, approaches, meets, as well as special program groups. The next tab is the SE Analysis. You can see all of the SEs that were assessed on a particular assessment. You can see the number of items per SE. For instance, 4.8b had 3 items. The average score for that particular SE was 47%. You can scroll down and see the student names. You can see each name. Again, when there are 3 bars, you can drill down to the student assessment history. You can see the average score percent correct. Then you can see how the students did as an average score for the SEs. So again, on 4.8b, there were 3 questions. This first student only got one of those questions correct for an average score of 33%. If there is process and SE analysis, you can click on that tab and see that information as well.